With the new updates to the bans and learning about the rotations of the games and all the new stuff and all the crazy jazz that everybody's so upset about and going crazy, we need to do a tier list. In the middle of all the chaos, let's rank these decks after the ban list. I think it would be really good to at least get an idea, or at least a thought of an idea. It's all obviously speculation. You can't say for sure, hey, this deck is going to be the best. But I think we can make some pretty good assumptions here. With that being said, that's all today's video is going to be. We're going through a tier list of all the leaders, ranking them, explaining why. For some of them, we're just going to throw in garbage and not even mention. So let's get into the tier list and let's see what we rank. As you can see, we have our ranking system up here on Tier Maker. Obviously, we have all the leaders down here at the bottom, and we're just going to go through and rank these characters where we think they land nowadays, going from OP1 to OP10, because there's some good contenders for OP1 even. I mean, I'm seeing some that I think will take over the meta, but let's just take some of the bad ones and just throw them in garbage. And I have a feeling this is a pretty good start for our unplayables. King, Ivankov, Magellan, Lucci, Kiros, Kaido, another Luffy, Yamato, Sakazuki, another Luffy, Uta, Law, Shanks, Sakazuki again, Sanji, and Zephyr, or Z. Then obviously you have your two band leaders in the Rainbow Luffy, because you can't be using the Rainbow Luffy in your tournaments. If you do, it better be a pre-release, because if not, it ain't gonna work. Now we go straight through, and we're gonna just rank them based off how the sim has it. So we start with Red Zoro here, and this is my first time really doing a tier list like this, and I'm gonna make a hot call. I think this is a regional winning deck. I think this deck is very consistent with the lack of now Gecko Moria in our black decks. I think Zoro could literally take off, especially with the new structure deck support and everything. I would not be surprised to see this deck winning, because you have the Chopper engine, you have the Animal engine, you have the Straw Hat engine. You can literally do whatever you want with this leader, and it can be very consistent. You just rush down your opponent in a very aggressive meta, especially once we see what our top tiers are. Red Green Law, that's my boy. That's my boy. And with less removal, he still could be my boy. I just don't know. I think we're at locals on this one, if I'm honest. I think it depends on where we form the tier 0 and regional winning decks. But if you're going for an aggro style, I think you're better playing Red Zoro, because you have 5 life, than playing Red Green Law. You spit out just as many bodies and do it consistently, while Red Green Law is just the weaker version. So that's why I'd keep him at locals. As bad as I want to put him at tier 0, I know, as bad as I want him at tier 0, he's staying at locals there. We have Red Green Luffy. Oh, Red Green Luffy. Oh, I want to put him down here, but it is a fun pet deck, so it's like a locals kind of thing. We may toss them together. Just throw the Red Greens together, the OPO1, put the goats together. 2 of the best characters ever made and shown in Protagonist. Law is basically the main character at this point, even though you just got no spoilers, no spoilers. Doflamingo's still gonna be in Rogue. Let's be real. That deck is too good, even without Jinbei. Obviously, if you guys don't know the actual full ban list, you need to go watch the videos from yesterday. There's 2 of them, one about the rotation, one about the ban list. So this one is definitely going to still be in Rogue strats. I think it won't be as consistent. I don't think it'll be at the top tables every time. I think it could take it if somebody really wants to continue no-lifing this, but I think most people are just tired of Doflamingo. So it's a Rogue strat. It'll possibly show up a couple times, but not much more than that. This is one I was fighting myself on, the Green Odin, because with the new Exodia format, with the Kinemons playing out Kinemon to play out a 3-cost from hand and losing your whole hand size but getting 5 bodies on the board, it's so much fun, but it's just not good, guys. We have to be honest. This one's going in unplayable. And these aren't in any specific order over here, but he's getting tossed in unplayable down there. Sorry, buddy. I think that deck's so much fun. I love doing the video on it, but that one is just not it. Now with blue-purple, I think there's just blue-purple better decks that are coming out, especially more that are already out, and I think blue-purple is very good, but I think Croc's more like a locals thing. He definitely can win, 100%. The deck has some amazing cards and counterplay to our opponents, but I just think it would be better to keep him down here. The draw is nice and everything, but it's just not consistent enough. And then we get into Newgate. Newgate, it definitely needs more support, but it's not close to the locals. I'll put him at locals because you can definitely get some wins, especially depending on the format and what we're playing against. But for me, I would honestly probably put him down here in unplayable. But I think he's a good pet deck. I think he's a good pet deck for people to play around with, have some fun, and play a whole different type of leader. Then we go into that Kinemon, unplayable. That's easy. Monkey D. Garp, unplayable. At this point in the game, Monkey D. Garp is good, but it's black and just lost Gecko Moria, which means Smoker is going in Rogue. I know that sounds crazy, but this is the only deck with good removal. With the Tashigi now still being available and losing Ice Age, that card is the only thing into this aggro meta that we're about to go into. I know people are going to be like, oh, doesn't it slow down because we just knocked down Doflamingo a little bit? Well, I think this gives Zoro a really good spot, and I'm really going off this. If Zoro's good, I think Smoker will be the rogue strategy that can help mitigate the strength of this Zoro deck and the consistency. Now we go into Red Ace. Red Ace is definitely needs a little more support. I think this deck's actually good. I will be the one to say it. I played it, it's fun, and you can definitely win your locals easily. And I think if you're a good skilled pilot, life this deck, you can be a good player with it. I just think it needs a little more support to get to these top tables or even rogue strategies. I definitely think that's one we'll toss right there. And with Kuro, I actually am going to put him there with it. I think Kuro definitely has a possibility in the future to maybe do something. We just need him to get some support. I know that's crazy putting him over my boy, and I know this isn't saying it's better than the locals decks. It's just saying there's a higher chance that these continue to get or possibly get some more support randomly printed than the guys down here, because these guys already have gotten so much support and they're not doing anything. New guy got support, he's not doing anything. Crocodile didn't really get any support, but he's still not doing anything. All these decks need is a little support, and they could be doing something. Green Yellow Arlong, we don't have the EVO2 support, so I'm going to keep this guy at locals, but once we update this tier list, he will be moving up pretty easily here. And then we get into Nami. Nami, it's all leaning on this Zoro, right? If Zoro is not the high tier play like that I expect it to be, this deck will be a lot higher, but it could also be a lot lower. I think Nami cannot go below Rogue Strategy though, just because it doesn't matter. People are going to know lifelong Nami just because it's Nami. You're going to see that deck somewhere or another. We'll go into Iceberg next. Iceberg, it needs some support for sure, but even if it got some more support, I just don't think it's there. It's a non-attacking leader. I just think non-attacking leaders right now are, for the most part, unplayable. I'm going to toss them down there. Black Yellow Lin Lin, I really think it's unplayable. It's one of those I didn't want to toss it unplayable, but it definitely feels that way. If you have played that deck, it don't feel too good. It don't feel too good playing that deck. Katakuri now. Katakuri could easily stay up here as a rogue strategy at the very least, and these are up to move. I'm going to tell you that now. They might possibly move. There's only a few things that would go up here at the top anyway, so Katakuri I think is still a good deck. It's just hard with yellow once we get into the big boss that's going to be up here. Let's go and knock him out. Let's just be honest, guys. We all know who's going up there. Where are you at? This guy right here, Marshall D. Teach. There's no way you're making this list without having Marshall D. Teach at the very top. He's going to shut down all of our opponents, and that's basically going to be it. Now, there is one thing to take into account when we talk about Marshall D. Teach. It's the fact that Eastern meta is way different than Western. Western, we know how good Marshall D. Teach is, so we play anti-Marshall D. Teach. So you see that in a lot of formats where one deck will be very good in the East, and basically what we do is we just say, well, I don't want to play against that. And then we play all the stuff that destroys that deck. With Doflamingo going downhill and getting hit with Jinbei, that's why I keep it in Rogue Strategies, because it would be playing into Marshall D. Teach. Easily winning that matchup even without Jinbei, because you don't have your on-play effects. Now, maybe the Marshall D. Teach has one more card in hand because they don't have to hit you on 4 to stop you from getting 2 bodies on the board, and you're only drawing an extra card, so it doesn't matter as much, but still, I think consistently Doflamingo beats this deck and Zoro beats this deck. I think our anti-meta strategy here in the West will do a lot of damage to this deck, but it will still be the most represented and most played deck in the format. We go to Vivi. Vivi needs more support. Vivi, she needs some love. I think she's an actual good deck. I almost want to put her in here with Rogue, but I feel like then I have to move some cards and decks up, because this is going to be the only good black deck in the format, and I think Katakuri is the only good yellow deck after Raigo got hit like that. So I want to put her in, need some support. We may actually just bump these two up just for now and then think about it more later. This green-purple, I'm going to keep them at locals, guys. I know everyone wants this deck to be good. Everybody's been begging for this deck to be good. It's not good. No matter what you do, it's not good. It's not consistent. There's not enough going on, and it's gotten support. These are the decks that don't get support that I'm tossing up here. It's gotten support and done nothing at all. So with Arlong, we know it's getting support, so we'll just leave him at locals. But once he gets support, he's going up here to tier 0. Not really, but you know what I mean. So we go to Isho, unplayable. I've tried, it doesn't work, I know. I'm putting Rebecca here at locals. Locals only because my friend Philip plays it at locals. Queen is going to be unplayable. I know that's a hot take. That is a very hot take. I want to put him at locals. I really do. But in this format, going down all of your resources and then gaining life slowly, losing all of your on plays though, this deck just gets destroyed, I feel like, in the current format. I just don't think this has value. Now, it's definitely a locals deck, and you could easily play it at locals, have fun, especially if you know your format, but for right now, I think I'm going to put him in unplayable. We go into the purple-yellow Lakers Croc right here, and I just think this deck needs some more support, man. I like this deck a lot. You ramp up, you gain life, and you call it a day. I think this deck's actually good. It just doesn't have the support yet, so I think that's going to be very good right there. Red-black Sabo, we're going unplayable. I know that's another hot take right there, but it's decks that just people really like, but it hurts. You have to be honest about it and just put them down. Put him down in the ground, because that's where he belongs. Bello Betty, I'm going possible contender. It's not, I don't think it's going to be too consistent, but I definitely think it'll take one finally, thanks to this being the big guy, Marshall D. Teach. It just depends on the pools and what they get and what you get and yada yada, whatever. I think that's a good deck. At the end of the day, that is a good deck right there. And this gets me into a fun one. Rosinante, I'm in between the two. I'm not going to lie to you. It just depends on if these aggro strategies really develop, this deck sucks. But if they don't, this deck could be very good. It's very annoying to play against, and it's a lot of fun. I think we'll leave it right there, but it's pretty close to where it needs to be. Now, Purple Luffy spits out bodies, does its job. It can beat Marshall D. Teach. That's really what you need to be up here in this regional winning, and I think it is very good. Now, these two decks don't clash too well. I think Zoro usually wins that kind of matchup just because of the aggression, but it also depends on the Purple Luffy's pool, how wide they can go, and how much they can control the board. So, you got two sides to it, but it's definitely a regional winner or potential regional winner. Now, we look at Enel. I think Enel will always be a rogue strat, even without Raigo. Legitimately, nah, let's be honest, that's a locals deck now. Red-purple, unplayable. Red-purple Uta, not gonna happen. Hody Jones, unplayable. This guy just needs a little support. This guy just needs a little support, and I think something could happen there. I'm just saying, this deck list is not horrible. This deck itself is not horrible. And I don't think anybody's really messed with the new stuff, the OP11 stuff with this deck list. We're going to have to do that very soon, but for now it's unplayable. We just got to be honest with it. Now, green-black Perona. You just lost Gecko Moria, man. I'm sorry. I love this deck. I love this deck so much, but it's just not good enough. It's like a locals deck. It's a pet deck. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's, I mean, I love the leader. It's so much fun to play, but it's not going to work out. It's just not. Now, Yamato needs that support from the structure deck. That's how I'm feeling with it. I think it's a good deck, but just giving him 2 cards in hand is just not enough for me. You get too much out of that, and it's not worth it. Now, Gecko Moria, trash. You lost actual Gecko Moria, you're trash. This, blue-purple Reiju, I'm feeling at least possible contender. It could go rogue strat, it could go up and down here. I'm feeling possible contender, though, for Reiju, just because I run a TCG player store. I've sold so much Reiju. People are going to be eating up Reiju very, very soon. With red-green Odin, we're going, needs a little more support. We're almost there. We almost have the deck list that we need, but EVO2 comes around, that deck gets it right there. Right there it gets it. And for Hannibal is going into dog water trash, never going to be played until OP11, actually. This deck does pretty well in OP11, and it's a really fun list, so I definitely think that's not a bad one. Locals only, Dragon, that one's pretty easy. Bonnie is definitely a regional winner, I think, in the format. It depends on who your teach player is. It depends on just the matchup in general, because you can usually starve out the Zoro. So it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors here. If Zoro beats Luffy, Luffy beats Bonnie, Bonnie beats Zoro. It's kind of like a little rock, paper, scissors there. So I definitely don't think that's horrible. Now for Boa, it depends. It really depends on the pool here. I don't think Boa's horrible, but now that it lost Jinbei, I'm going to just put it down. I think we're just gonna have to go locals. I think we're gonna have to go locals here, sadly. And it's a good deck, but it's not gonna work. Now, Foxy, it's a fun pet deck, but it's not good. Lucci, trash. Trash. Let's get him. Put him down. Put him in the ground. I am so happy about that one. We got Vegapunk. Vegapunk is, I think he's going to be a rogue strat just because you can gain life and everything, and this doesn't really shut down your leader effect. You can go wide on the board. You play good into Marshall D. Teach. You have an aggro strategy. You do well into some of these matchups. I think this is a good deck. You do good into Purple Luffy. You don't do too good into Bonnie or Zoro. You can take out some of these top decks just going very aggressive versus their aggression. You can beat out Smoker now that they don't have Ice Age or Gecko. You just get domed by Katakuri, let's be real, but you destroy Doflamingo. I think it's rogue or needs a little support. I don't think it's much higher. I don't think it's any higher than that. We can put him in tier 0 for fun, but I think it's just a little rogue deck that's kind of fun. Chopper, I think we're feeling banned. I think we're just gonna ban him. We'll throw him in the needs some more support. I actually don't think it would be a horrible deck list though once you get the OP10 and EBO2 support for this deck. But again, that just needs a little more support. It's almost there, but it's not quite there. This with the 4 and the red-blue Marco, I think it has to stay at locals just because of Marshall D. Teach. If this is the tier 0 deck that we're expecting, this deck is going to be down here. Now, if this is not the tier 0 deck, I do think this could be up here, all the way up here, just because 9-cost Sanji. You can't do anything with 9-cost Sanji in this deck to cheat out 2 bodies, thanks to Marshall D. Teach, because it isn't on play. So we'll leave that guy at locals. That's a lot of fun, though, to play that list. Carrot's going locals. King is going unplayable. Pudding needs some more support, but she gets there very soon. Calgara, I think, could be a good rogue strategy. It's a very good board to spam the board, do all that jazz, run it down. It is. Regional winning, Shanks. I think Shanks does well into Teach, or they have an even matchup. I mean, it's your usual stuff, but it's the opposite side of the Zoro, basically. Aggro red strategy versus stay alive and play the late game red strategy. Very different, but both very good. Green purple, I think this does well. It's a possible contender for sure. At the very least, maybe rogue strat. I'll put it at rogue strat just because it is Lim. At the end of the day, it is Lim, so I can't say too much. And boy, Buggy. I'm putting Buggy in a possible contender. You give me Marshall D. Teach on the board, Buggy's dominating. You give me any of these decks, maybe not so much. But at the end of the day, we did just finally get the promo, so I think this is an actual, with the current format, not having the black removal, I think Buggy's going to be one of the best decks in the format and going to be my main deck. I'm just telling you now. Purple Black Luffy, Dog Water. Purple Yellow Nico Robin, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I think we go Rogue Strat. Red Green Smoker. Oh, we're getting to the good decks now. Caesar. Let's start with Caesar. Trash. Red Green Smoker. Gas. Sugar's garbage. This deck is so bad. It's good when it pulls. It's bad when it doesn't. It's like a locals deck at best, but I definitely keep it unplayable for now. Yellow Green Law. I think it just needs more support with that blocker that it gets very soon. I think that's going to be very good. Usopp. Usopp's a rogue strat at best. I think Eustace Kid's a rogue strat at best. This is just being honest with the actual deck list and not sitting here trying to... I love Usopp, that's my boy, but it ain't gonna happen. Not with this kind of meta, not with these deck lists going wild. It could definitely check some of these decks, that is the one thing I will say, especially, but with the lack of removal, you don't need an anti-removal deck, basically, is how I feel about it. So I would say this is definitely a good contender to keep going forward. Red Sanji, trash. Red Luffy, trash. All these starter decks, trash. Let's just throw them in here. I don't even see one good starter deck down here. This guy right here, trash. None of these decks are any good. Now, I will put Red Yellow Sabo. I think I'll put him at locals. He has so much support. I want to go, needs a little more support, but he's gotten so much support, man. If you get this much support and you don't do anything, that's on you. That is 100% on you. RP Luffy, I'm going to put at possible contender. I think it's definitely one of those that's up there, but it gets checked with Teach, so we'll leave it right there. Eustace Kid, this is going to be one of my unsanctioned calls right here. Rogue Strat. I think this deck could do good, especially with the aggro format, and it'll do well as a actual control build as well. So depending on what the format comes out as, I think this deck could be good with the lack of removal. This deck definitely has a chance. Same thing with Green Uta. I actually would put some money down saying this deck does win something. At least that's what I'm hoping, because that is a good deck. It's fun, it's consistent, it does what One Piece wants to do, and it does it well. So this is a deck that checks some of these decks, but doesn't really check this deck. So that's why I'm putting it more of a rogue strategy right there, and then needs a little more support. Blue Green Sanji Zoro is one of my favorite decks, but it's just not quite there. Now maybe with the lack of removal, it does get a step up, not having you be able to take care of my characters, but I lose Jinbei. So Jinbei was our main target. We have to make a whole new build basically for this deck list. I just don't think it's going to work out that way, and we'll just have to call it there. That's going to be the tier list. That was a pretty easy little tier list there. Pretty easy to put these things in place. I feel like this is pretty consistent with what you're going to see very soon. You'll just have to come back and check out the video, honestly. Let me know what your thoughts on that deck list are down below, or tier list, man. I'm not doing deck profiles today. Today we're doing the tier list based off the ban list. We'll do a deck list tomorrow or something. But for today, I hope you enjoyed that one. Hope you enjoyed my cat getting up in the way. You know how he is. So anyways, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list, and I will see you in the next one. Loving you, mama. Peace.